The kid line comes up big for the New York Rangers as Alexis Lafreniere, Kaapo, Kakko, and Filip combine for 3 goals and 3 assists. The Rangers rally out of a 2-goal hole on the road against the Florida Panthers to claim a 4-3 victory. And Patrick Kane scores an important goal for the Rangers, but still looks a little tentative thus far in his New York Ranger career. All this and much more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 792 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And so, yeah, another come-from-behind win for the New York Rangers, another gut check win, another character win, call it whatever you want to call it. This team is rolling right now, and really nice to see the Rangers get knocked down, early in the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, get knocked down early in this game against the Florida Panthers, come back to win both of those games. Obviously, with the Canes, you're dealing with a team that's in first place in the Metro Division, and just a very good team. With the Panthers, they've been really up and down this season, but you're playing a desperate Panthers team in their barn. I mean, it didn't really feel like that because there seemed to be more Ranger fans there than Panther fans, as is often the case when the Rangers go on the road. But nevertheless, you're on the road against a desperate team, a team on the outside of the playoff picture looking in, a team that really needs to win this game and is up 2-0. Rangers don't care about any of that. They come storming back, and they find a way to get the job done. And I can't go a second longer on today's episode without singling out the kid line for the job that they did. All 3 of Kakko, Chytil, and Lafreniere end up with 1 goal and 1 assist in this game. And the thing that I love about this, and this maybe will calm some of the Gallant haters, or at least get them to calm down for a day or two here, but just the fact that he kept going back to them. It really was noticeable after the first goal that they scored. Kakko scored on a stuff-in goal or a rebound goal, call it whatever you want to call it. But, yeah, after that, it felt like Gallant was consistently going back to the kid line. It was basically like the kid line would be out there, then the first line, then the kid line, then the second line, then the kid line, then the fourth line, then the kid line. You get the idea. He just kept throwing them right back out there, and deservedly so. And, something that I just want to mention, I want to break down the goals that they scored in just a second, but all of us, and I definitely include myself in this. I'm kind of the one leading the charge on this sometimes, I think. But all of us kind of get caught up in line combinations and, who's on what line. And, oh, man, this guy's too good for the third line. He's got to at least be on the second line. Or, oh, my God, how can you drop this guy from the first line down to the fourth line or from the third line to the fourth? You know what? There's 4 lines, and there's been more consistency with the line combinations lately than there has been in quite some time. And, I think that, again, we just get caught up in who's labeled as a first liner and a third liner and all that stuff. There's 4 lines, and I feel like, that situation as far as, who gets the most ice time and who's out there in certain situations, that should always be fluid. There should always be something of an ongoing competition when it comes to, lines and which lines get the most ice time. Yeah, I mean, the kid line is technically the third line, but they were the best line in this game, and Gallant saw what was happening, and he kept throwing them right back out there because they were creating more chances than any other line. They just looked more dangerous than any other line. They were spending more time in the offensive zone than any other line. They just looked like they were going to make things happen, and Gallant rewarded them with that, especially after that first goal that they scored. And lo and behold, they go on to score 2 more goals for the New York Rangers, including the game winner, what turned out to be the game winner by Filip. At the time, it gave the Rangers a 4-2 lead, but then, of course, the Panthers got one back not too long after that. But yeah, I mean, just great stuff from the kid line. And this is something else that I've talked about in the past. Longtime listeners, you probably know where I might be going with this. But this is when this team becomes especially dangerous, becomes especially scary, because you look at the top 6, and yeah, they didn't have a great game here, at least in terms of offense created. Kreider, Mika, Panarin, Kane. Kane had the fluky goal, of course, but, for the most part, the guys on the top 6 didn't really do a whole lot offensively, but they will. They're eventually going to, get it rolling, and they have had it rolling. It was just one night where they didn't get it going in this one. But that kid line, man, when they go off, when they really find their A game, and they're really hot and cold, they're really up and down throughout the course of a season, but when they have their A game, that is when this team becomes a big-time force to be reckoned with, and that is when I don't think anyone wants a piece of the New York Rangers come playoff time. When you start getting big-time contributions from that kid line, from that third line, because when they're going, you got to figure the guys above them are going to have it going as well. You can count on Tarasenko and Kreider, all the usual suspects, Panarin, Kane, go through the whole list, Trocheck. You can count on those guys to give you some offense, especially in the playoffs. You figure this is a group that's going to get it done. But when you have that kid line rolling as well, my God, I mean, how do you even begin to try to stop this team? They're just loaded. It's an embarrassment of riches. But with all that said, I do want to kind of break down the goals that these kids scored in this game. The first one, the Rangers needed a spark. They were down 2-0. It's a second period at this point. The Rangers had all of 3 shots on goal in the first period, so obviously not really creating a whole lot of offense. And then the kid line gets rolling. I mean, really the whole Ranger team kind of got it rolling. There were a couple shifts in a row where the Rangers were at least spending a little bit of time on Florida's side of the ice. They were at least possessing the puck a little bit. The whole first period, it felt like the Rangers never had possession of the puck, but be that as it may, the Rangers get on the scoreboard here. Just an awesome play by Filip. Panthers are attempting to exit the Rangers zone, and it looks like they're going to, but Filip takes the puck away, puts a nasty move on a defender, goes toward the net, but then passes to his right and in a little bit deeper to Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere passes back to Filip in front. The save is made, but a great job by Kakko, recognizing what was happening, getting to the right spot, anticipating that rebound opportunity, knocking it into the net while going flying while he did that. I think he took a hit on the play. He ended up being down on the ice, but great play there, and 2-1 in favor of the Panthers with 11 minutes remaining in the second period. As far as the second goal, the game-tying goal, you got a board battle, and I thought the Rangers overall, especially as this game progressed, were really good on the boards. Down the stretch, I thought that was key to the Rangers hanging on to the 1-goal lead. But they win a board battle here. They come away with it. You've got Tyler Mott passing to his left to Jacob Trouba. Trouba with just a beautiful pass from along the boards on the left side. He finds Alexis Lafreniere on the right side. And a great move by Lafreniere here. Fakes a forehand shot. And instead of shooting it, he passes, essentially to himself, moves it to his backhand, kind of had his skate involved there. I mean, it's one of those things where it happens so quick, it's hard to even know what you just saw. But bottom line, just a beautiful move by Alexis Lafreniere on the doorstep there. Goes to the backhand, flicks it into the net, 2-2. Just a beautiful goal. This wasn't quite on the level as far as Lafreniere's goals, the one that he scored against Detroit last year where he played it through his own legs and then backhanded it into the net. But it did remind me of that a little bit. Just a really slick move on the doorstep and kind of in the same spot on the ice, with the Rangers going from right to left and Lafreniere moving to the right side of the net and, going with the backhand to score. But great stuff there, and the kid line rewarding Gerard Gallant's confidence in them and rewarding his strategy. He saw that they had it going, and he kept going back to them, and lo and behold, they scored 2 goals here in the second period, and just like that, we are tied at 2-2. I'm going to talk about the third goal that the kid line scored a little bit later in today's episode because I want to kind of talk about the third period as a whole. It was obviously pretty crazy, and a lot of stuff happened there, so we'll save that for a little bit later in today's episode. But, just watching the kids, I mean, they're feeling it right now. You could tell just by how they were, performing on the ice, but even sitting on the bench, they look loose, they look relaxed, they were smiling, they were kind of joking with each other, it looked like. They're feeling good right now, and they should be. And Kakko mentioned not too long ago, because they had a couple players going through a little bit of a scoring drought. Kakko himself had not scored in a long time. Chytil had certainly gone through a drought. Lafreniere kind of as well. I mean, I think he had scored more recently than the other two, but bottom line, the kid line was not really producing a ton of goals, but Kakko said, we know it's going to come. And, in recent games, even before they started scoring again, it felt like the kid line was starting to pick it up. They were starting to find their game a little bit. They were getting close, and, hey, baby steps in the right direction, and lo and behold, now you have this game where, the Rangers don't win this game without the kid line playing the way that they did. So, awesome stuff, and again, that is when this team becomes a serious bona fide Stanley Cup contender and maybe even one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference, the whole league, however you want to classify it. That's when it really starts to happen, is when this kid line begins to fire on all cylinders, as they did in this game and as they have in the last handful of games as well. We all obsess over time on the ice, too. It's one last thing I wanted to mention as far as the kid line is concerned. But, Lafreniere ends up with 14-17. Chytil gets 14-09. Kakko gets 11-57. Kakko's hurt a little bit by the fact that he isn't on the power play right now. He had 24 seconds of power play time in this game, but obviously not out there, all that often. But, again, Gallant, credit to him for, kind of adjusting on the fly there, recognizing the fact that the kid line was rolling, and they were having better shifts than anybody else, rewarding them for that. And then the kid line, of course, rewards Gallant back the other way by, ultimately accounting for 3 goals, 3 of the Ranger 4 goals that were scored in this game. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. Like I said, I wanted to break down what was a pretty crazy third period here. Rangers ended up having to hang on for the 1-goal lead at the very end, and we're going to do that in just a second. But first, we got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I use Athletic Greens literally every day, and I started taking it because I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, so we just want to go ahead and thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And as promised, want to go ahead and break down what I thought was a pretty crazy third period for the Rangers. Yet another example of the Rangers being at their absolute best when they need to be at their absolute best. They have a phenomenal record when tied going into the third period. I had it written down in yesterday's episode. I don't have it in front of me right now, but 2 straight games here where the Rangers have been tied going into the third, and they find a way to get the job done. And obviously, it's 2-2 at this point. Patrick Kane gets a little bit lucky here, but this is goal number 450 for Patrick Kane and what is obviously a Hall of Fame career. This is actually the second time this has happened for Kane since he's come to the Rangers, where he's trying to pass, and it takes kind of a lucky bounce, a fortunate deflection, and ends up in the back of the net. He was clearly trying to pass here. He's along the boards on the left side, and it's interesting because, the announcers, Sam and Joe, made it sound like he was trying to pass to Trocheck. I thought that he might have been actually trying to get it to Panarin, because if you watch the replay, Panarin was moving down the right side, and he kind of got lost in the shuffle. There weren't really any defenders near him, and Panarin was kind of creeping toward the net on the right side there. So I think Kane was trying to get it to Panarin for the tipping goal. But regardless, whoever he was trying to pass to gets a little bit of a lucky bounce here, deflects off of a Panther defender, goes into the net, and just like that, the Rangers are on top for good at 3-2. So that was obviously great to see. We're going to talk a little bit more about Patrick Kane in a little bit later in today's episode, but I did want to mention at least the goal that he scored here because we're focusing in on the third period. But then, of course, you get Filip with what turns out to be the game-winning goal for the New York Rangers. You get a face-off in the Rangers zone. Rangers are able to work it out, clear the zone, and then Kakko makes a pass off the boards and up the ice, and Aaron Ekblad had a chance to play it for the Panthers. The puck seemed to just kind of jump over his stick somehow. Guess it took a little bit of an unlucky bounce there, or maybe Ekblad just kind of overskated. But regardless, he basically came up empty, trying to pick up the puck there and skate away with it. And Filip takes advantage. He collects the loose puck, goes in alone for, kind of a late developing breakaway there, makes a great move on the doorstep, and he scores. And just like that, it's 4-2. And as I mentioned, just a brilliant night for the kid line. All 3 of them end up with 1 goal and 1 assist in this game. And once again, the Rangers do not win this game if not for the play of the kid line. But then, if there's one negative I can point to in this game, I guess you could say the slow start and the fact that they only had 3 shots on goal in the first period. But the one for me, it's something that continues to just kind of stick in my craw, and it's the fact that the Rangers once again gave up a goal shortly after scoring a goal themselves. Now, this wasn't as bad as some other ones, because if you watch the shift that followed the goal that the Rangers scored, it wasn't bad at all. The kid line was right back out there. They were out there with Miller and Trouba, and the kid line, got control of the puck. They got the puck deep. They were cycling it. Rangers even got a shot on goal. I believe it was Keandre Miller shooting from the left side. Panthers go the opposite way on the rush, and I thought the Rangers defended pretty well here. Puck goes on net. Halak covers it. We've got a face-off in the defensive zone. So, okay, not bad at all there for the shift following the goal. But then, off the ensuing face-off, you've got Harper, Schneider, Mott, Gaudreau, and Vesey. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, all the defensemen are going to have to play at one time or another. That is the Ranger third pairing, but it was probably their turn to be on the ice. And the Rangers, with a defensive zone draw coming, they go with their 4th line and their defensive forward specialists. So I have no issue with the personnel or anybody that Glant put out there. Panthers end up getting control of the face-off, and you've got Verity swooping around behind the Ranger net. He gets away from Harper. He comes out the other side. Schneider can't get there in time. He just kind of plays it into the crease. And just like that, you've got Barkov scoring from the doorstep. So this wasn't as bad as some other examples where the Rangers, give up a goal, less than a minute after scoring themselves. I believe this one was about 45 seconds later. But yeah, again, it's just one of those things that just continues to happen. And I don't think the Rangers really did anything wrong, and once again, in terms of personnel, but you just got to be a little bit sharper. You're ready to basically take complete control of this game. You've scored 4 unanswered goals. You give up a goal like this, you give it right back, and all of a sudden the Panthers are right back in it, down by 1 goal. They've got a little bit of momentum, a little bit of jump, and you're back on your heels, trying to stave off the Panthers potentially tying this game. So for me, it's just one of those things where I think the coaching staff just needs to continue to drill this into the head of the New York Rangers, because we're coming down the home stretch here, and I don't want this to be a thing come playoff time. That is for sure. As far as the rest of the third period is concerned, you've got, about 5 minutes left. A couple chances that the Rangers had to potentially give themselves a 5-3 lead and give themselves a little bit of breathing room. Panarin and Trocheck both were robbed with about 5 minutes to go in this game. I also wanted to point out a really cool defensive play. It was basically, Trouba and Tyler Mott teaming up against Anthony Duclair here. So Duclair's got the puck, and we're down to about, 3 minutes to go in the game at this point. Panthers searching for the equalizer. Duclair gets the blue line, going up the left side, but Mott was immediately pressuring Duclair. No sooner did Duclair get over that blue line that Mott was right there in his face, and it kind of forced Duclair to move to the left, even closer to the boards, and then that teed up Trouba for, not one of his bigger hits, but, a solid hit nevertheless, separates him from the puck, and then, of course, Mott is still there, and Mott clears the puck into the neutral zone. So you had Mott and Trouba almost like working in tandem there to make a really nice defensive play. And Tyler Mott, something that I've noticed about him since he's come back to the Rangers here, he almost uses the Ranger blue line like his tag team partner. Like, basically, he takes advantage. Anytime there's a situation where the puck is near the blue line, he's doing everything he can to either force the player out of the zone if they've already gained the zone, or, he'll get up in their face and try to deny entry if they're trying to bring it in on the rush. He'll try to, use the blue line to his advantage to knock the puck away from, his opponent that has the puck, because, he knows when somebody's just inside the blue line, they've only got so much room to work with there. And if he gets in their face and he pressures them, he can force them into a turnover, or, cause them to rush their pass, and that leads to a turnover, or do what we've seen him do a couple of different times, force the player out of the zone, or, poke the puck away and into the neutral zone, whatever it might be. But Tyler Mott really takes advantage, just really seems to know where he is on the ice. And like I said, I think that's a solid analogy there, is that Tyler Mott uses that blue line as his tag team partner. Him and Jimmy Vesey, I would say, do that as much or more than anybody on the Rangers. And you can maybe throw Mika Zibanejad in there as well, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that with Tyler Mott. When somebody's near the blue line, he's going to get in their face and take advantage of them not having really a lot of room to maneuver with. And we saw that here. And then, of course, he got a little bit of help from Jacob Trouba delivering a hit along the boards there as well. But then, Filip, great chance with about 1:45 seconds to go. Bobrovsky makes the save. They end up pulling Bobrovsky about 10 seconds later, about 1:35 to go. And Halak comes up with 2 really strong saves, 2 really clutch saves right in a row here. And it's funny because, watching this game as it developed, I thought to myself, we're getting into the third period, and I'm thinking, Halak's had a pretty solid game. The only thing that's, kind of been missing is that I didn't think to that point in the game he'd had any of those big time wow saves. He saved it for the most important spot in the entire game. So basically the Panthers take a shot from the blue line. He makes a save. That was, a fairly easy save for Halak. I think he got a good look at it and made a pad save. But the rebound is there. Reinhart's right there in the slot. Prime scoring real estate, and a great save by Jaroslav Halak on the rebound try by Reinhart. That was absolutely huge there. We were down to about 1:20 seconds to go. Halak tried to cover the puck. He wasn't able to, but the Rangers were able to clear the zone at that point. And then we get a play stoppage, a timeout by the Panthers with 1:07 to go. And after that, not really a ton of great chances down the stretch the last minute or so for the Panthers. Thought the Rangers defended really well. Halak made whatever saves he had to make, and time ran out, and the Rangers get a, once again, very hard-earned 4-3 victory on the road against a desperate, Florida Panther team. Second straight game, once again, that the Rangers have rallied to beat a good team on the road, and that's obviously very nice to see. Rangers basically firing on all cylinders right now. I do want to spend kind of the last portion of today's episode, though, talking about Patrick Kane. It's been a little bit of a mixed bag since he's come over to the New York Rangers, but I kind of just wanted to weigh in on Patrick Kane and everything that's happened so far, his performance in this game, and we're going to do all that in just a second. But first, we just got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you've got to try a Built Bar. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, real chocolate. And they come in unbelievably delicious flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they are healthy. Only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars at Built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro, and you can thank us later. All right, so Patrick Kane, I wanted to go ahead and talk about him and his performance in this game, his performance as a New York Ranger thus far. And let me just preface this entire thing by saying that I am so glad that Patrick Kane is here. I'm glad the Rangers found a way to make it work through all kinds of salary cap gymnastics. And, when you have a chance to land one of the all-time greatest players in this league for just a conditional second-round draft pick and a fourth-round draft pick, I think you have to do it. The Rangers pounced. They got their guy. And just like that, they're a much deeper team and a much better team. There are times this year, though, since he's come to the Rangers, obviously, where I do think Patrick Kane at times has just been a little bit timid, a little bit tentative. He just doesn't always look like a guy who, is carrying himself like a 3-time Stanley Cup champion and somebody that's won, scoring titles and been on God only knows how many different all-star teams and all that good stuff. And the time where I've noticed it more than any other, as far as Patrick Kane is concerned, when I think he's kind of holding back a little bit or just kind of feeling for the light switch in the dark or trying to be selfless to a fault, all these things that seem to be holding him back at least a little bit right now, the time where I've noticed it the most is on the Ranger power play, because there have been more times than I can count, situations where Patrick Kane has had a chance to shoot the puck on the Ranger power play, and you feel like the shot is coming. A couple home games, you can even feel the crowd, the volume goes up a little bit, and the fans are anticipating a shot and potentially a goal, and he'll hold the puck and just doesn't pull the trigger and then tries to force a pass. And, honestly, there's times where you can honestly believe where Patrick Kane had a better chance of scoring than he did of trying to complete the pass that he tried to make, on certain power plays for the Rangers. And look, at first, I don't think that's uncommon. Anytime you get somebody traded, goes to a new team, they want to be selfless, they want to set up their new teammates for a goal, they want to win over the locker room, all that good stuff. But the bottom line, we're getting to the point now where Patrick Kane has now played 12 games with the New York Rangers. And I think we're at the point where all that stuff can kind of go by the wayside, where he can start to be a little bit more selfish, and I don't think anybody's going to care. I just want to see it get to a point where Patrick Kane, just looks like a New York Ranger. He looks like he belongs here, and, you kind of forget about the fact that he's only been here for as short of a time as he has, and I think that begins with him shooting the puck a little bit more, but he just isn't really standing out in these games as much as you would think somebody like Patrick Kane would stand out. I've definitely noticed that over these last 2 games for sure, and that's not to say it's been a disaster. He's had his moments. He's had a couple of nice passes, a couple of nice goals, a couple of primary assists here and there. And, 12 games with the Rangers, 4 goals, 4 assists. He's a +1, averaging 18 minutes and 6 seconds of ice time. His shooting percentage is 12.1% right now. So, it's far from a disaster. And I think something else to keep in mind is that when the Rangers trade for somebody like Patrick Kane, they're doing it, especially, when they traded for him right at the trade deadline there. Yeah, anything he does in the regular season is great, and if the Rangers can pass the Devils and or the Hurricanes in the standings, that's fantastic, and if Patrick Kane is helping the Rangers do that, that's wonderful. But when that trade is made, the Rangers are doing it thinking about the playoffs, thinking that we're definitely going to be a playoff team, we're going to get there, and that's when Patrick Kane can really make a difference. And more on that in just a second, but I did want to point out a couple of things that he did in this game. He was called for a hooking penalty in the offensive zone when the Rangers were kind of off to a slow start in the first period. This was right after the Rangers had killed off a penalty, and the puck's behind the Panther net, and the Panthers are skating away with it, and he just reaches out and hooks his guy, and there's just no reason for that. It was just kind of a lazy penalty, one that's completely unnecessary. It's not like the Panthers were about to score or anything like that. There was also a play later in this game, and by this point, it's the third period. The Rangers were up 4-3, which was, of course, the final score. But Kane had a breakaway opportunity and got caught from behind and didn't even really get a shot away. And you're just so used to, with Patrick Kane, he's that guy that just goes out there and asserts himself, asserts his will. I'm that dude. I'm that guy. I'm the the league MVP from seasons past. I'm the guy that's won 3 Stanley Cups, and I'm one of the best to ever play this game. And I'm just not seeing him carry himself with that sort of bluster, that sort of, borderline arrogance that you would almost expect from somebody like Patrick Kane. So I hope he can get back to that soon. Not to say that he's completely lacking in confidence, but there's just times where he's been a little tentative thus far in his Ranger career. But to get back to the point I was making a second ago about the playoffs, if you've been underwhelmed by what Patrick Kane has done with the Rangers so far, I think that's somewhat fair. But the bottom line, nobody's going to care about any of this if Patrick Kane goes off in the Stanley Cup playoffs the way that he's capable of going off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. When the Blackhawks were winning all those Stanley Cups, he was the guy leading the charge. He was never a passenger on any of those teams. He was the guy making things happen, putting up all these crazy numbers. Of course, he had the overtime Stanley Cup winning goal in Game 6 against the Flyers the one year. I believe that was the first one that the Blackhawks won. So, Patrick Kane is used to coming up big, coming up clutch in some big spots in some really important playoff games. And despite the fact that at times I feel like he's been a little tentative, I am by no means ready to throw in the towel on Patrick Kane. I am by no means ready to bet against him in the playoffs. I think Patrick Kane has a few more big playoff moments in him in his career, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that a lot of them happen this year with the New York Rangers. And who knows if he'll be back next year, but, again, Patrick Kane, once again, if you feel a little bit let down by what he's given the Rangers so far, then I get it to an extent, although, he's done okay, he's done all right, he just hasn't given you as much as you would expect, but the bottom line, it's all going to come to a head in the playoffs, because if he goes off in the playoffs, then that's what he was here for, and nobody's going to care if his numbers were a little bit underwhelming down the stretch in his half season here with the New York Rangers. Just wanted to mention Patrick Kane and kind of talk about everything that's happened with him so far. He's been with the Rangers once again for a dozen games. I also want to give a quick shout out to Jaroslav Halak. Again, it was a solid game, one where I'm trying to bring up the stats here and see how many saves he ended up making. 31 saves on 34 shots. So a solid game for Halak. His performance, through no fault of his own, was lacking kind of those wow saves until, once again, the final minute 10, whatever it was there, when he made a couple of saves that kept the Rangers on top. The Panthers had their goalie pulled, a couple of clutch saves down the stretch there from Jaroslav Halak. So that was obviously good stuff as well. I'm thinking for our next episode, I might do a mailbag episode. The Rangers are not back in action until Tuesday against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we might turn our attention to the mailbag and some YouTube comments and all that fun stuff. Also, Ryan Lindgren's still not back in the lineup. He is traveling with the team right now and is still considered day-to-day. Day-to-day could mean one of about a million different things, so we'll keep our fingers crossed, obviously, that Ryan Lindgren is back in the lineup sooner rather than later. And the only other thing that I want to mention here, Vincent Trocheck Revenge Tour is now complete. They go into Carolina, they beat the Canes. Now they go to the Panthers, they beat them too. A couple of come-from-behind wins. And, Trocheck, again, having a really solid season for the New York Rangers. He hit another post in this game. What else is new? He must be up to 12, 13, 14 posts, somewhere in that neighborhood. But regardless, big win for the Rangers, and just looking forward to seeing them back in action against Columbus on Tuesday. But that will do it for today, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com, and definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers, and definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen game-to-game NHL, every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.